Sunday afternoon, September 11th, and I'm in the open area where my 9 officers that work in Cape Girardeau County work out of. A lot of times through the week, it's just deserted too, because these officers travel to all the different schools and police departments in Cape Girardeau. There's 11 different police agencies, and there's 12 school districts in this 3-county area. So this place can be this deserted during the week too. Just finishing the chapter on police and police ethics. From the interviews, and I've read most of them, commented on most of them so far, have a few more to do tonight. A lot of the officers are talking about individual ethical dilemmas. I want to talk a little bit about departmental or institutional ethical dilemmas. And I'm sitting in an area that makes me think of one to explain to you. And it's a little complicated. I will attach some documents in the module that'll you can look at, kind of help understand it a little bit. But remember that we are the 32nd Circuit of Missouri, and there are 34 or 35 circuits in the state that are multi-county circuits and controlled by an agency in Jefferson City, Missouri, which is about 300 miles from here. And those people who supervise us rarely show up here. Now, we saw one this week. The state court administrator came down to dedicate our courtroom in this new building that we are in. And probably the second time she's been to Cape in the past 5 years. So they don't come down too much, but their guidance and rules and organization and big data sets control the number of employees we have. And the best way to describe it is in 2012, an outside research agency was hired. Several PhDs came in from out of state. They did time studies with all of the employees, all the deputy juvenile officers across the state. And from those time studies of the work that these deputies do that sit back here and then move from here into the cars to go to the different schools, the different police stations, they looked at the time spent on individual cases, and the individual cases were then weighted, and it was actually called a weighted workload study. And I'll be posting the latest one in our module so you can see it. And cases are weighted and given certain time for how long it takes in a month to work certain types of cases. So for an example, a misdemeanor stealing case is rated at 1.5 hours per month for 6 months to work a kid through a disposition or an informal adjustment on a misdemeanor stealing. On the other hand, a truancy case, which is called TrueCourt in their computer system, is rated at 7 hours because, well, first of all, how we get those truancy cases in the juvenile court, principal will call us and say, Johnny has missed 3 days of school, unexcused absence in the past week. We don't know where he's at. We can't call the mother, and we're making a referral to you as a status offense, as a truant offense. So I send an officer out to the house. So they knock on the door. Probably don't get them the first time, so our evening officers will go out. Evening officers will finally make contact, and they'll ask the mother or show the mother the documentation. Look, Johnny hasn't been in school this week. The school's inquiring. They've referred it to us. What can we do to help to get him to school? Because it's state law that he attend. So she's got these excuses or has some, well, he's sick. Well, what do you mean he's sick? Well, he has anxiety disorder. We're seeing a psychiatrist. When was the last time you saw the psychiatrist? Well, 2 years ago, they said this. I'm supposed to give him medicine, but I'm not. And so, there's always a long story with these. But basically, my officer usually lights a fire and they start attending school. So we're checking on them every week at school to make sure they're attending. There'll be a backslide situation, and then the officer will have them come into our office. Well, he's not obeying me at home. I don't know where he's at, and I'm finding stolen cell phones under his mattress. Did you report it? No. Where are the cell phones? I don't know. So you've got this kind of semi-delinquent case going, so you refer those to family therapy. So they start coming in here for family therapy. The short story is those cases take more than 7 hours a month, but yet that's what the state courts gives us in the workload formula. But it's better than 1.5 hours. And so this past week, I had an officer come up to me, Mr. Tim, sits here behind me, and says, Randy, I've got this case that was referred. The kid had a misdemeanor possession of marijuana, was stopped. There was a car stop. He was in the back seat. He had a small bag in his pocket. It's misdemeanor possession. However, when I ran his school history before our meet, the school history, well, he's missed over 30 days last school year. This school year, he's already missed 10 days. The principal hasn't referred him to us yet, but he's already missed 10 days. And so here's the ethical dilemma. What is more serious? Is it the possession of marijuana or the missing school? Or is it a misdemeanor assault or the missing school? Well, the ethical dilemma is I'm going to code that sucker as a true court referral, as a truancy referral. He might have 3 assaults attached. He might have a possession of stolen property, misdemeanor, all these things that are actual crimes if you're an adult, but I get more work credit if I code it as a true court referral. So I code all of those suckers as true court to get the 7.5 hours. And when you open the document that I attached to the module, you will see that the 32nd Circuit is #1 in the state for needing more deputy juvenile officers. And so we are #1. I have 9 deputy juvenile officers working out of this building. The workload formula shows I need 10.4 more deputy juvenile officers in 2015, probably more this year due to the meth cases that have come in this year. It's been just crazy, and we get almost 7 hours credit for those meth cases. So because I'm a seasoned juvenile officer, because I know how to work the system, I know how to squeeze every referral to get the most credit, I'm #1 in the state as far as needing more deputy juvenile officers. Now, since 1990, when the state took over our system from the county, they haven't given us 1 extra deputy juvenile officer. But they are sure set up if we drop below the weighted workload, and some circuits have, they will take officers away. So if one of these officers says, wait a minute, I'm making less money here than if I was a starting teacher. And so they fill out the forms, they do alternative certification to become a teacher, and they leave. If my workload wasn't showing that I needed more officers, that I was in the red, the state would take that slot away, and I wouldn't ever be able to get it back. So some of the circuits with chief juvenile officers, that's what I am, with new chief juvenile officers, with lazy chief juvenile officers, with chief juvenile officers that are a year away from retirement. I've seen that happen, that their weighted workload is they need 3, 4, 5 deputies a year, and then all of a sudden, this happened in the 33rd Circuit, bam, they're 2 over. And it's like, what happened to those guys? I call up there, I find out, well, Chief Juvenile Officer has colon cancer, he's going to retire in 6 months. Nobody's been watching the ship, nobody's been putting the statistics down, and so all of a sudden they're 3 over. And so the new Chief Juvenile Officer down there is behind the 8 ball trying to catch up with his statistics. And so they're calling the old man to find out, well, how do we do that? How do your statistics look so good? And so the ethical dilemma, it's not that I get a trophy for being number 1 in the state. Actually, I get questioned by the committees because of all my suspicious numbers, and I have to report and write special reports because we have so many. But my ethical dilemma is how we charge these kids and how we count points. Sometimes, I could handle things